What's up, folks? I'm Private Hudson, and this is in Exilium. And after playing this game from start to finish, I am feeling like this guy right here. This is a weird one. This is a Diablo-style action RPG that's exclusive to Steam, however, it's no longer available for sale. It was delisted, and the only way to pick it up now is via a gray market key reseller. From what I can tell, the game was developed in 2013, released on Steam in 2015 for $10, had a price reduction to $5 a year or two later, and then was removed from the storefront in 2020. Why? I don't know. The store page is still up, including the discussion board and all the posts there, but there's a notice saying at the request of the publisher, the game is no longer for sale. There's nothing in the announcement section or on the discussion board explaining why it was removed. The last post is actually from 2017 on there. Now, I have plenty of games on Steam that had mostly negative reviews, were delisted, had their store pages and practically their entire existence deleted, but this one has mixed reviews, so it can't be all that bad, and the page is still up. I could barely find any information on this game. YouTube footage was limited to either developer diaries from 2013 or a few people playing the first 15 minutes or so of it, which again is pretty old footage. There are no guides, no walkthroughs, and aside from the 70 or so Steam reviews, there's nothing else out there. This, to me, was a mystery, and as a lover of the genre, I had to check it out. And you know what, my friends? Some mysteries are better left unsolved. 15 minutes in, I could tell that this game was absolute garbage. This is without a doubt one of the worst action RPGs that I've ever played, and I've played a lot of bad ones. As a matter of fact, I've covered quite a few of these bad ones on my channel. Greed Black Border, Realms of Ancient War, Dark Angel, Vampire Apocalypse for the PS2, hell, even Van Helsing, a game that some people like. I thought it was barely playable garbage. Just check out my old video on it and witness the incredible gameplay that had multiplayer sessions crash during practically every map transition, and the end boss, the last boss of the game that got stuck in the ceiling. In Exilium describes itself as a simple, minimalistic RPG. I think the terms primitive and bare bones would be more accurate. Everything about it is primitive, including the graphics. Yeah, it's a bit of an old Unity game, but it looks worse than Nox, which came out in the year 2000. In Exilium has no story. You're a king, there was some bad thing that came along, it gained influence in your court, it took over and kicked you out. Now you're in exile in the middle of nowhere, and your goal is to get back to your kingdom and regain control. And that's it. That's all there is to it. There's no voice acting, there are no additional characters, and there's pretty much no additional writing. The story is like as if I'm reading the back of the box of an Atari 2600 game. Oh, there's actually one shopkeeper, that's the only other NPC in the game, but it's just a corpse hanging from a tree. Before I get into this further, I do want to mention a few positive things that I liked about in Exilium. At the character creation screen, you're given 3 classes to pick from, but all this does is allocate your initial stat points into that class's main stats. You can allocate these yourself if you choose to, and none of the items in the game are class specific, they're simply reliant on stats. For example, a bow requires a certain amount of dexterity to equip, a staff requires a certain amount of intellect, and weapons and armor require a certain amount of strength. You can buy a scroll from the corpse hanging shopkeeper for 2,500 souls, which is the game's currency, and this scroll resets your stat points, so whenever you want, well, if you have enough souls, they actually take quite a bit of time to farm up, but you can, if you want, turn your warrior into a mage, for example. You never need to make a new character and start a new game, and trust me, you wouldn't want to do that anyway. I also like the open design and complete lack of hand-holding. The game doesn't teach you anything really, you're left to figure things out by yourself. And areas of the map are only blocked off until you reach a certain character level. For example, when you start the game, you're in your camp, there's a dungeon to your right, and you can't access it until you're level 5. There's also woods on the left, and you can't access that till you're level 2. Well, you're level 1. What do? Oh, I see some training dummies. Let me whack them. There we go. Now I'm level 2, and I can head on over to the woods. From there, you come across 3 paths that split up. The only one that's initially open is the forest. The desert one requires you to be level 20, and the mountains require you to be level 40. So you go into the forest, and it splits into 3 more paths. And here you can go wherever you want. You can also go back to your camp and access the dungeon to the right. Once you hit level 20, you can go straight to the desert. You don't need to clear out areas in a certain order to access other areas in the game. Granted, the desert is obviously harder than the forest, but I was struggling with the forest. I had these trees gang raping me Evil Dead style, but I was able to kill a few monsters in the desert, which power leveled me a bit and made my time in the forest easier. The structure of the game is the following. The world is split into these several different areas. Each area has 3 sub-bosses. Killing all of them unlocks the boss of that area. So you go into the forest, splits into 3 areas, you kill the bosses of each of those 3 areas, and then you can fight the boss of the forest. But aside from certain areas being locked until you reach a certain level, you can approach them in any order you want, and I like that. That's about it. Everything else about this game is god-awful. The most important aspects of an action RPG are the level design, the combat, and the loot, and this game fails in every single one of them. The store page reads, and I love this, if you like RPGs, and this is written as a possessive for some sort of reason, and have become disenchanted with typical RPG design practices, In Exilium is for you. Is it now? Let's just take a look at In Exilium's design practices. The maps are full of idiotic puzzles. The forest area has a section where you go from teleporter to teleporter, praying that you'll find the exit to the boss of this section. The desert area is full of pillars you need to light up to create platforms. But these activated pillars all last for a different interval of time, so you need to hit them in the correct order. Leaving the map resets everything and respawns all enemies. Oh yeah, and some areas just have respawning enemies in general. Even if you don't leave the map, they'll still end up respawning. There's an optional area in the game called the Abandoned Cabin. You can find some piano notes in certain locations, and in the cabin there's a piano that you can play that unlocks secret areas that have guaranteed loot. Problem here is that the developer expects you to know how to read sheet music. Are you kidding me? Now you may say, oh hey, this doesn't matter, these areas are optional, but here's the thing, the loot in this game is absolute garbage. First of all, there are barely any drops. The dead shopkeeper only sells common items that have no special affixes. You can buy a super expensive gem for 5,000 souls, an enchanted item. What does that do? It gives it one special random affix that could be anything from bonus accuracy, extra experience earned, or something as useless as lower stat requirements to equip it. And the thing is, you can only enchant it once. So any common item you get that you decide to enchant, it will only have that one unique trait, and that's it. In the wild, however, you can find items that have 2 special affixes on them. So this super expensive gem is just garbage. At one point I found a bow that supposedly did bonus poison damage. It was supposed to poison enemies. Well, in my experience, it didn't poison shit. And since it already had this poison affix attached to it, it couldn't be enchanted further. Basically, a useless garbage item. Another gem that you can get to craft combines rings and amulets together. It took me 10 hours to beat the game. I found a total of 4 of these accessories. I had one ring that had 2% physical defense and another that had 2% energy defense. I should be able to combine the 2 together, right? Nope. Apparently, it must be the same exact item. Right at the end of the game, outside the final boss room, I found another ring that had 2% physical defense. And I was finally able to use this super expensive, worthless crafting gem to combine these 2 items together for a whopping 4% improved physical defense. The other 2 super expensive crafting gems that you can buy, one is for weapons, one is for armor. All they do is do +1 damage for weapons and +1 defense to armor. That's it. And the gear itself, melee weapons don't even tell you if they're one-handed or two-handed. Weapon damage is just a dice roll, 1d7, 2d5, 3d8. Armor, just defense percentages. So when you have a game that has barely any loot and what little of it exists is absolute garbage, Hiding secret areas that actually might have decent loot behind puzzles that expect the player to know how to read sheet music doesn't make you clever, it makes you an asshole. I was only able to access one of these because I found the answer to it in an old Steam forum post, but none of the others were spoiled for me, unfortunately. Then we have the combat, which is a complete clunky slog. There's no shift click, you need to click on the enemy when attacking them, which is great for melee characters when enemies hide behind terrain and you can't click on them. You have a hotbar where you can place 5 skills, and although I previously mentioned that you can build your character out however way you want, your skills are based on the weapon that you have equipped. That's right, so if you want to use mage skills, you must have a staff equipped. Archer skills must have a bow. Warrior skills, you must be using a melee weapon. The best part is that the mage is the only one that has a recall spell. That's right, the only way to get back to your camp is via this spell, which only the mage has access to. There are no scrolls of town portal, so if you don't have a staff, the best way to get back to camp, if you're another class, is just get killed. There's no penalty for it. Absolutely brilliant system. Tell me more about being disenchanted with typical RPG design practices. There are no health potions, there are no energy potions, there's just innate regen, which by itself is pitiful. If you AFK for 10 seconds and you don't get hit, your health and energy fill up almost instantly. Skills use a bunch of energy, some have extremely long cooldowns, and in general they're a pain in the ass to target. There's no smart casting, being a pixel off results in a complete miss, and using a skill cancels out your auto attack, even if you're still holding down the mouse button. So you need to release your left click and click again to start auto attacking again. And after casting one skill, you can't follow up immediately with a different one for some sort of reason. The game just doesn't let you. You have to wait like another 2 seconds before you can use another skill. Skills unlock when you put more points into your class specific stat. More points in Dex means more unlocked archer skills. But there's no way to make the skill stronger. You can't improve them, you can't reduce the cooldown, you can't increase the damage. So when you have a super clunky combat system, barely any regen, weapons that depend on single-digit dice rolls to do damage, and enemies that just get larger and larger health pools as you get further into the game, how do you actually play? You kite. You kite, and after the battle's over, you wait 10 seconds to get your health and energy back, and then you move on to the next monster, and you kite again, and yeah, that's how I played almost the entire game. In Exilium tells you this. Strength increases physical damage and health. Dex increases accuracy and dodge. Intellect increases energy regen and is required for spells. Focus increases energy and energy regen. Vitality increases health and health regen. So going by this game's own definitions, as an archer, I kept putting points into dexterity and strength. No matter what I did no damage. I kept swapping between a bow and an axe and shield because I did more damage auto-attacking in melee than I did by using my bow skills. Then I found out the secret, guys. Unfortunately, I found out the secret almost at the end of the game. The secret stat to victory is focus. There are no energy resist items in the game aside from the 2% ring I found. Focus is the stat that gives you energy resist, and it also increases the power of your skills, which the game doesn't even tell you. I rerolled my character using a super expensive scroll for 2,500 souls, and by the way, you get souls whenever you kill something, but it takes forever to get a decent amount. I put just enough points in strength to equip the armor that I was using. I put 110 points into dexterity to unlock all of the archer skills, and the rest I split between focus and vitality, with focus receiving the majority of whatever points were left. I went from having around 120 strength and dexterity to around 80 strength and 110 dexterity. I tested my physical damage output on the training dummies. It was the same. No difference. But my skills, they went from doing 20 damage to around 50. Unbelievable. And I was still struggling with some of the bosses. I killed most of them except for the desert boss. Just take a look at this. This is after I re-rolled my character. I'm doing single-digit damage to this guy. He's got spinning green shit around him, so I figure I have to go to these 3 platforms, do the stupid light the torches puzzle. Maybe that'll remove the green shit and I'll be able to do damage. Maybe. I get killed by his magic. I respawn, I portal back to the desert, fight him again, and all of a sudden, with nothing changed with my character, my auto attacks are doing 20 damage to him and my skills are doing 50. What the hell is going on here? Well, the boss's name is Error, so maybe the devs never fixed him and left him as is. That's the only thing I can think of. So I killed all of the bosses of all the areas, which unlocks the final boss of the game. Each time you go fight him, you have to take this long-ass walk of shame. It gives you plenty of time to reflect on your life and ponder as to why you decided to sink any time into this game. I was still having trouble with him, but then I found some mines in the mountain area that were littered with these super expensive gems. The ones that give you +1 damage to weapons and +1 defense to armor. So I pumped those things into my gear and finally beat him. And what do you get at the end of the game? You get some more shit loot, a credit screen showing the 5 people responsible for this game, and you unlock the post-game dungeon. And sorry for the spoiler in case any of you ever decided to play this sometime in the future. Sorry for your loss. This post-game dungeon, it's generated based on what word you type in, creates a random seed. I don't know how long this dungeon is, but you're basically fighting the same enemies that you've already fought in the main game. You're just fighting them again. According to some forum posts, you can find better gear here, including some that affect your character's karma, whatever the hell that is. But at that point, I was done. So yeah, that's in Exilium, a terrible action RPG. Why did I put 10 hours into this game, playing it from start to finish? I don't know. There are some games out there that are so terrible that they just captivate me and compel me to play them through. I will say one last thing. This isn't the worst Diablo-style action RPG that I've played on Steam. I'm playing through one right now that might take that crown. And if you want to see what that one is, be sure to subscribe to this channel so that you'll get notified about it. I won't tell you what it is, but I'll be generous and give you a sneak peek. I wonder if the person who designed this font color and UI still has eyeballs in their skull. I can't read shit.
This place stinks like hell.
This guy sounds like a prepubescent boy trying to do death metal vocals.
I can't do this.
Look at this. I'm clicking on the goddamn barrel. What the hell is wrong with this game? Why can't you just shoot the goddamn barrel? Alright folks, I'm Private Hudson. If you enjoy this content and want to see more content similar to this, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I'll see you folks next time.